Okay, I'm going to do a positive video. Don't tune out. No. Don't click away. It's positive is okay. You don't need rage bait all the time. I promise. This makes me happy. And I'm a big Steve Ditko fan from way back. If you guys have watched the channel, you've seen me do reviews of his work, including his independent work. He is an inspiration to me. I loved his philosophy. I love his hard work ethic. Really, it was a man that I wish I could just do books and not have to promote. But we're in a different world in 2024, and of course we do have to promote. It's great. It's fine. And he's finally getting some recognition that he deserves. Now, this is a long time coming. If you don't know the history between Steve Ditko and Marvel Comics and Stan Lee, it's a long one, and we're going to try to summarize it as best we can here. But it's been a nasty battle in order to get him any recognition at all for decades, and it's finally starting to turn the tide. And I'm hoping that now we can actually give him the recognition that he deserves on all fronts. This is a wholesome story, and I'm happy to present it to you today. Please hit the like and subscribe button and join us as we talk about the comic news and everything else in comics, my friends. Appreciate you being there. And I've also got my own comic, The Hidden Emperor, on Kickstarter. Right now, this is a great sci-fi graphic novel if you are into the classics, if you like Valerian and Laureline, if you like Flash Gordon, if you like Star Wars, if you like Nexus. This is definitely going to be up your alley. Please put this and grab this today. Back it. Support our channel. It's in the description below, guys. And thank you so much for coming in so hard on it already. That's incredible. It's all you who enables us to do what we do, and we appreciate you for being there. All right. So Johnstown native Steve Ditko. So this is a local news. Steve Ditko posthumously got honored with a Disney Legend Awards last week. And so on Sunday, the Ditko family was invited to D23, which is an annual Disney Expo attended by thousands. Mark Ditko, who's a friend of the channel, great guy, said he accepted the Disney Legends Award on his Uncle Steve's behalf. Steve Ditko is responsible for co-creating several famous Marvel characters like Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. Yes, I absolutely adore that this is actually happening. And I'm just flabbergasted. This is the scale it needs to be at, but I never conceived this would happen like this, said Mark Ditko. Mark said that Ditko, who died in 2018, was more interested in his work than public attention. And that's not just what he said. I mean, Ditko was notorious about this. He just shied away from public attention at all. He just wanted to hole up in his studio, do his work. He wanted the work to speak for itself. Such an honorable guy. Really cool. And I've had the pleasure to talk to some people who worked with him. He had a reputation as such. For being a recluse, a hermit, or whatnot, which was really not the case. He got a bad rap for that. But I had Tom DeFalco on the channel a while back, who worked with Steve Ditko in the '80s and ran Marvel Comics for a long time. And he said Steve Ditko is always fun to have around the office. He liked to get his coffee and just chat a little bit. Usually, just liked to chat about the comics. And he was a very genial guy. And Jack C. Harris said very much the same thing. He came out with a book about Steve Ditko, which I highly recommend, that came out last year as well. So go look for that. Jack C. Harris. Very, very similar sort of thing where he just really liked working with him, said he was a consummate professional. Really good stuff. So Mark and his sister, Joanna Opella, said they want more people to recognize the contributions their uncle made, and so do I. That's a big portion of what I want to do on the channel here. He was always underacknowledged. The family wants to write the story on who he really was and bring the right attention to his work, said Ditko. So Johnstown Bottle Works Executive Director Matthew Lamb said he's hoping to continue to make Johnstown area more aware of Ditko's work, especially after Sunday's award. He said on Thursday, the Bottle Works is hosting a family fun night to honor him. We think it's extremely important for kids from this area to know you can do great things coming out of Johnstown the way Steve did. He was a pillar of the comic book industry, and it's so important for us to share. The Ditko family said that they hope the Disney Award can bring more attention to Ditko's legacy as well as the Johnstown area. This event, in my opinion, is the perfect launch point, said Mark Ditko. We want to be able to use this for the benefit of Johnstown because we grew up here. He grew up here. It makes absolute sense. It's natural. Pretty cool and wholesome. So they had this award. They presented it. They showed it for Spider-Man, Doctor Strange. And Steve Ditko really did a lot of great work for Spider-Man, was not credited with it for a lot of years, if you don't know this. Everybody always said it was Stan Lee's creation. It was Stan Lee's creation. It was Stan Lee's creation. And Steve Ditko really had to fight for it. And he fought in a way that, like, he actually went to the point where it was against his financial interests. Like, he was offered checks to pay him off and things like that, and he would decline them. He wouldn't even cash the checks. He'd say, look, if they're not going to credit me for the work, I'm not going to take the money for the work, and I'm not going to take the money for their offshoots of the work that are not even going to tell me what it is. He was a very all or nothing kind of guy, and that was really leaned into his philosophy. It's either something's good or bad. It's A or B. It can't be both. So Disney can't just not credit him and then pay him at the same time. He wanted it the right way. And he wrote a lot of essays. He had a great book called The Avenging World, where he wrote a bunch of essays about things. He had essays called The Comics that he did with Robin Snyder, who did a lot of his publishing in the later years for his independent work. And he would talk about creation, what creation is in comics, and what a creator is. So if somebody put pen to paper, is that the creator? If somebody just walked up and said, hey, make a guy in a spider suit, does that make the creator the creator? And it kind of, as you went into it, you look into it and you go, oh gosh, like how much Stan Lee was there in the creation, even in the co-creation? It looks like it was mostly a Ditko idea. And Doctor Strange was a Ditko idea, like entirely, by the way. Stan Lee gets a lot of credit for that as well. But he brought that out there. And if you look at the early letters pages and all that, Stan Lee actually mocked it, said, hey, this was a wacky thing Ditko brought to us. We don't even know if it's going to work. And he kind of like downplayed it because it wasn't part of his creations. And Doctor Strange, of course, endured and stood the test of times. If you look at those old books, Steve Ditko had amazing creativity in it. Some of the worlds when he went and astral project and went to different realms and all that, some of the artistry on that is just so creative. It's incredible. Like, I mean, people actually thought Ditko at some point, did drugs and all that, but he didn't. He was not one of those 1960s guys. He was just very much a person centered on the work and just had an incredible creative mind. And so you can look at all that happened in the past and like how that really got very painful for Ditko. It got to the point where actually Stan Lee was not even really doing much on the Spider-Man books for a while. It was Steve Ditko who was doing the full stories, fleshing them all out, just turning in a full story. Stan Lee then would do dialogue over it, even though the story was already done. And they'd both get credit for it at that point, even though it was mostly Ditko's work. So a lot of what you know and love from these classic characters was really all because of this man. He worked really hard. He didn't go out and lobby for it. He didn't go out and try to fight for it. He just did his work. And then when he didn't get the credit for it, he just walked away from Marvel. And he went and did a lot of great work for Charlton in the mid-'60s as well. That gets a little less attention. Did some stuff for DC in the 70s. Really cool stuff with the Creeper, with some Shade the Changing Man. Some very interesting characters that, again, didn't quite get the attention and the fame that these did. Stan Lee to his credit, did a hell of a job promoting, and it is what it is on the popularity level, largely in part because of his work on that level. But Steve Ditko really was a lot of the artistry behind it, and it is important to recognize him on this kind of stuff. So he left Marvel. When he came back, and he did some work in the 80s for Marvel, he worked on ROM Space Knight. He did Speedball, which was a very wacky, fun thing for a bit. He did some fill-in issues here and there. And he actually refused to work on these characters because he, again, was at the point where he's like, I'm not getting the credit for it. I'm not getting what I want out of this, and therefore I'm not going to come back to these characters and do this and give you that kind of win and accept that until I get what's due. And unfortunately, he's finally getting what's due after he's passed away several years ago. He spent the later years doing independent works, just drawing whatever he really wanted to draw at the time, making a lot of... he loved to actually... He's known very much for his little philosophical cartoon drawings where he just talks about different things. He of course, lambasted the concept of fandom, which I find hilarious. But he also did a lot of he loved mob stories. He loved doing just a very standard 1930s aesthetic, with a bad guy doing a bad thing and somebody going and stopping them. A lot of his stories just really revolved around that classic pulp archetype. And you could tell he really wanted to bring back that kind of culture, which was really cool. And something that I really love to read and really love to see his work in those later years as well. So this is great. I'm glad that D23 finally recognized the family, gave him an award that he's due. I'm glad that Mark Ditko's out there doing what he does and actually giving Steve Ditko some of the promotion that he actually deserves. And I hope we can see more of this. I hope we can expand this in the future because there's so much glorious stuff out there that he did over the last 40, 50 years that doesn't get the attention it deserves, and we'll do our best to do that here. All right, leave a comment down below with what you think about this. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and do back The Hidden Emperor on Kickstarter. This is a wonderful, wonderful comic. If you love 60s, 70s, 80s comics, you'll enjoy this. I promise you. Thank you for backing this and supporting us. We'll be back soon.